Right folks, these are the first plants that I'm putting in. I've got the stunning Gora. It's one of the new hybrids. You can see it's a dark pink. It's called Gora Belize. Beautiful, beautiful flowering. Enjoys full sun. Remember, each Gora is going to get about that tall, so that's about 60 centimeters. And it needs space to get wide. It's going to get about that width as well, so at least 60 centimeters wide. Remember, we've got our gorgeous mix, bit of bone meal in the bottom of the planting hole. And remember, as being a true perennial, which is this Gora, once it's had its major flowering flush, I do suggest that you give it a good prune, because if you don't do that, what happens is the entire plant does become quite leggy, and it really does just slow down its entire growth. So it's very important that with any perennial, just as a general rule, that after flowering, you prune it back hard. And as long as these plants are still young and vigorous, well, they're just going to enjoy the pruning, because what that does is it gives them just more of a kickstart and a go for the next season. So here we go, one nice and snug in the back of the bed, and let's get a few more of these others in. You know, folks, the great news about this Gora is that it can grow almost anywhere, from the sea right up into the berg. Right humid conditions, this plant is happy, very happy. So right to those people who live in Umhlanga, anywhere on the coast, to those people living where it's really humid, like Zanin, in those parts of our country, right to where it gets minus, incredibly cold, this is the plant for you. It is very tolerant to drought as well, so it doesn't require too much water. And of course, the only thing that it does need is a good few hours of sun. We've got all our Goras in place, and we formed a nice bank of them, nice and solid across the back. And now for the bits that I'm going to be filling in with, well, I'm using an awesome contrasting plant which does incredibly well as a good bed buddy with Gora, and that's an Agapanthus. This is one of the new hybrid dwarf Agapanthus called White Ice. Now you'll notice, I mean, the normal little dwarf Aggies are much smaller. They have a much smaller head and a smaller flower. These guys have a thicker stem, bigger flower, and look at this, 3 flower spikes coming up. They are incredibly difficult to kill, and they are incredibly rewarding. 2 really good factors that most of us gardeners always want to know about plants. Once again, they grow from the coast right up into the mountains, up into the berg where it gets very cold. If you go into severe minus temperatures, and I'm talking -7, -8, up to -15, they will frost down to nothing. So their leaves will frost completely, but the good news is that as spring arrives and as temperatures start warming up, so they shoot through and push through again. In that case, when they have frosted down, please get some mulch, whether it be straw or good rotted compost, and put a layer of that on top of it just to protect it. Do not be encouraged to cut away those frosted leaves, because actually they just protect the bulb. Rather just throw a bit of mulch on top. Right down at the coast, easy as anything. Just let them carry on growing. All they need is a bit of sun. Keep them well watered if it's very dry, but once again, they are incredibly drought tolerant. And last but not least, it's important every 3 years that you dig them up, divide the plants up, and replant them into well composted beds. This gives them extra nutrition and gives them a good boost and enough space for regrowth, and of course then more flowering. The new hybrids are amazing, and folks, it doesn't matter which one you lay your hands on, whether it's Queen Mum, whether it's Lapis, whether it's Blue Velvet, or whether it's White Ice like this. Do yourself a favor and pay the extra few rand and get it, because you know, they truly are spectacular. They've been bred for ultimate performance, like the F1s, you know? Last few little guys that I'm putting in is a good little filler, and it's called Mexicana Cocktail. Now, a lot of people say, my goodness, Tanya, but this plant is like a weed. Well, indeed it is. That's why I like it so much, because it grows so well. Little Mexicana, it's called Mexicana Cocktail, has a bit of golden foliage, lovely little lilac flowers, and it's going to form a great combo with these plants. As usual, in the hole goes some bone meal, in goes my little guy. Make sure that he's tucked in here really well. Now, Mexicana don't enjoy that much frost. They will die. They will literally die down to nothing. The good news is that these guys do reseed themselves. So even if the plants do get frosted, well, they will come up again. In any gardens, right from the coast or up to where it even gets rather mild, like 0 degrees, these plants will be able to grow. If, however, they have frosted, please do not be tempted to prune them back. Rather leave the foliage in case it frosts again, because that damaged foliage actually protects them. In areas where you don't get frost, these guys are going to grow like weeds, absolutely. And then every 2nd or 3rd year, I do encourage you to give them a good pruning, because that rejuvenates them and also reduces the height. Remember, this is a ground cover stroke perennial, so it's going to form our lower layer, then going up to the height of our Agapanthus, and then the full height of our beautiful Gora or butterfly plants right at the back. Looking lovely. Final touches. Cut some weed guard to just cover this area, and now we've got some doozy gravel which we're going to throw over here. That'll make sure. Remember, why do we put it down? Because it stops the weeds from coming through. Gooi Garth. It also allows our pebbles to be longer protected, so they stay here for longer because they don't get squashed into the mud, and of course finishes it off really well. Let's do it. The grouting is done and our server is complete, and it looks absolutely amazing. Of course, to always finish something off, we need some gorgeous plants. I've got a pot here full of some amethyst agapanthus, really divine deep color. A few herbs in there. I've got a variegated oreganum, some marjoram, beautiful euphorbia. This euphorbia, one of the Christ thorn, loves growing in the sun. And then just another container with a bit of grass and some nemesias in. On this side of the pizza oven, I've decided to go with a whole plethora of different containers. So it's things that I've had lying around, like this thing. Now, seriously, I really don't like that pot. However, grouped amongst the others kind of tones it down. Here in the container, I've got some indigenous nemesias. When they finish flowering, you give them a little prune back and away they'll come again. And inside it is the indigenous Euryops, which is the yellow daisy, tough as nails. And this guy over here is called Ionium. It's got a beautiful second name. It's called Ionium Schweizkopf. Absolutely. You get a green variety, you get this dark brown variety. Incredibly easy to grow. You just break them off, stick them into the ground, and off they come. I've got, of course, got my favorite little echeverias, and I've got some sedums here, different types of sedums, this guy as well as the grey one. And these are a new variety that you'll find in most of your garden centres. They flower during the summer months, and I've got a little fuchsia in the back. But folks, remember, you can use anything that you want in terms of containers, like this old watering can that's really been through the wars, or an enamel bucket that you've just drilled a few holes into, with a great combination of some grasses, a little nemesia, and of course some diascias.